One of the most important and controversial Confederate generals during the Civil War was Lieutenant General James Longstreet, the man Robert E. Lee called his old war horse. Longstreet was Lee's principal subordinate for most of the war, ably managing a corps of the Army of Northern Virginia and being instrumental in Confederate victories at Second Bull Run, Fredericksburg, and Chickamauga. Longstreet was also effective at Antietam and the Battle of the Wilderness, where he was nearly killed by a shot through the neck. Had Longstreet died on the field in early May 1864, he would almost certainly be considered one of the South's biggest heroes. However, it was his performance at Gettysburg and the arguments with other Southern generals after the Civil War that tarnished his image. After the South lost the war, and Gettysburg came to be viewed as one of its biggest turning points, former Confederate generals looked to the battle to find scapegoats to blame for losing the war. Longstreet was charged with being slow to attack on the second day of the Battle of Gettysburg, allowing the Union to man Little Round Top. He also resisted Lee's order for Pickett's charge the next day, making his criticism clear both that day and after the war through his writings. The fact that he served in Republican administrations after the Civil War rubbed his former comrades the wrong way, and the Georgian Longstreet's criticism of Lee infuriated the Virginia Lost Cause advocates who idolized Lee. Near the end of his life, Longstreet authored From Manassas to Appomattox, a Civil War memoir that looked to rebut his critics. Longstreet didn't avoid his critics, facing them head-on by fending off criticism of his record for the most part, usually including letters written by other officers to his defense. Longstreet also didn't pull punches, which he does at times quite poignantly on Lee's mishaps, most notably, of course, at Gettysburg. In other instances, he defends himself by criticizing others. When Fitz Lee notes that R.E. Lee called Longstreet the hardest man to move in the Army, a comment that can't be confirmed or refuted, he comes to his own defense in part by criticizing Stonewall Jackson during the 7 Days Campaign. Hindsight is 20/20, and Longstreet's arguments in the conduct of certain campaigns certainly benefited from the passing of 30 years. At a number of places, Longstreet believes that if his suggestions were followed, the results could have destroyed the Union armies or won the war. Nobody will ever be sure if he's right or wrong on these matters, though historians typically consider those kinds of statements bluster. Lee's Old Warhorse, the life and career of General James Longstreet, looks at the life and career of one of the South's most important and controversial fighters, explaining his biggest accomplishments and discussing the biggest controversies. Along with pictures of Longstreet and other important people, places, and events in his life, you will learn about Lee's Old Warhorse like you never have before in no time at all.